Okay, we're live. I'm very happy to talk to Rob Chang, CEO of Gryphon Digital Mining. Hi Rob, how are you doing today?
Fantastic. How are you?
Yeah, I'm fine. Thank you very much for this
Great.
interview. Yeah, let's jump right in. So Rob,
Mhm.
you're a well-known person in the crypto space. So can you tell us about your journey into crypto? How did it all start for you?
Yeah. Well, thanks for asking. It's an interesting story, at least to myself. Um, for me, I was in the investment banking research role for 15 some odd years, and pretty happy there. But what I did though was when the internet started taking off, I guess many years ago now, like decades ago now, I promised myself if something as structurally important that effectively changes how the world works shows up again, jump on it because I've noticed that during the internet takeoff, anyone who did anything related to the internet did really well, made some great changes in the world, and was basically participating in a very exciting change in how the world was going to work. So I told myself, next time it happens, not only will you, well, one, make a lot of money, but two, it'll be exciting because you're going to be participating in that type of change. When the Bitcoin opportunity showed up, and when I first started looking at Bitcoin, I thought, well, someone smarter than me could always steal this money, so I'm not really too comfortable with it. But as I found through my contacts with some investors, I started noticing more and more investors buying Bitcoin and realizing, maybe I should take a look more into this. Did some detailed research, and this was in 2017 or so. Realized the importance of blockchain and how it will transform the way value gets transferred throughout the world. I told myself, well, this is what I promised myself to do, so let's do it. So I decided to leave the investment banking research world and look for a position somewhere in the Bitcoin mining space. Luckily enough for me, the basically the biggest company around, Riot Blockchain, was looking for a CFO at the time, and I contacted them, and away I went. So I did that job. So that's actually how I switched over. Was just a promise to teenage Rob to move into the space that ends up being transformational like Bitcoin is.
Yeah, very interesting. And now you're a CEO of a Bitcoin miner, Gryphon Digital Mining. I mean, it's a very new company in the space. Um, you have this merge with 3D. So can you talk a little bit about Gryphon Digital Mining? Yeah, and the merge and how is it going now?
Sure, I can talk forever, so feel free to interrupt me on this one. So Gryphon Digital Mining was built on two particular tenets. The first one being is that we wanted to put together a team that would professionalize the space, and the other part was we wanted to be the first ESG committed Bitcoin miner out there, and we believe we accomplished both. To talk about the first one, if you look at the Bitcoin mining space, we think it looks very similar to the cannabis space, if people are familiar with the cannabis space, in that both industries were highly unregulated, becoming more regulated. And generally, the people who succeeded there were deep pocketed visionaries who decided to take the jump, and they surrounded themselves with other people with deep pockets because this required money, and they started their companies and moved forward from there. In both scenarios, what we also notice is that as those industries mature, institutional investors start to become more interested in the space, and they usually want to see more institutionally desirable management and board teams. They're usually just a lot more professional, is the idea. So what we were doing at Gryphon was we wanted to assemble a very professional, high quality team so that the second generation or the institutional wave of investors would find a company that they're comfortable with top to bottom. Because for many other scenarios, it's usually one or two very strong technical guys, and then the rest are really just rich people sitting in board seats and whatnot. So we decided to do that. So for our board, I'm going to jump into some detail. For our company, rather, we are a very good mix of deep blockchain expertise along with some blue chip companies. So for myself, as you noted, I was the former CFO of Riot. I did run the ship, so to speak, when the company did suffer some issues in 2018 because of, as people know, the SEC did some investigations. It was fully exonerated, but of course, it's always difficult during that time. So I managed that ship. I also did some consulting for others. So I also consulted for Hive Blockchain and did a lot of good work for them, I believe, including they had a $20 million facility that cost a build, and I helped advise them to acquire it for $2 million. So I did a pretty good job there, I believe. And
Yeah, I
so,
think that was the facility in Lachute, is it right?
correct,
Okay.
correct.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
follow
So
this story. Great. Okay.
yeah, so I was behind that. And yeah, and then I ran into this group that was frankly second to none in our opinion, unparalleled. And they asked me to join on as their CEO, and I jumped at the chance. So the other people that we work with, Brittany Kaiser, super impressive. She's the chair of our board. She sits in the Congressional Committee for Blockchain and has co-written 22 different laws into existence. I believe there's another 20 more that are in various stages of approval, but she's behind those as well. Basically, whenever there's a Bitcoin or cryptocurrency conference, and if she's there, she's usually one of the keynote speakers. So we're very excited to have her. She also embodies ESG, and that's one of the key things I want to point out is when companies talk ESG, they're usually just talking about the E, the environment side. They don't really talk much or deal much with the S and the G side because those are just the extra letters that happen to come with ESG to them. For us, the social and governance really do matter. And the reason why I say this is Brittany, if people know her background, was the whistleblower at Cambridge Analytica. So she actually lived the social and governance aspects of it by stepping forward and being the person to evoke some change in that company. So we're very proud to have her, and she definitely is the epitome of the type of company we want to be in that. Not only do we care about the environment, but we also want to be good corporate citizens as well and do things the right way. To augment that group, we also have fantastic leadership experience, in our opinion. When you talk about some of the best companies in the world, you usually think about Facebook, Netflix, Google, and I'll throw in Disney there as well. Our team has former senior people from all those companies. For example, Dan Tolhurst, our president, was a senior strategy guy at Disney. And then he was also head of the content strategy for Europe for Netflix. Richard Cooperstein was the first head of international business at Facebook. And he was also the CFO of one of Disney's major business units. And then Joseph Naiman was a senior strategy guy at Google, but he also worked with Eric Schmidt at his Tomorrow Ventures family office. So what I say is when you compare us top to bottom, I think we're very deep and have very strong expertise in our areas. And when you put it up against most other Bitcoin miners, I don't think there's a comparison, and that our team is much stronger. And it has opened doors for us. We find that we're getting very good deals. We're getting lots shown to us. And then with some of the major contractors, such as Bitmain, we're noticing that we're getting good terms that are usually better than what we usually see now elsewhere and in larger volumes. So we think it provides us good access. And the other thing, too, it has given us access to great power. We came out of the gate 100% hydro. So we're 100% carbon free right off the bat. And we see that there's other groups trying to form consortiums to figure out how to become green. Well, we're fully green. And part of the reason why we're able to do that is because we have a good network to get into that. Switching over to the ESG side, I did talk about it a little bit. So we are 100% carbon free. In fact, we're actually carbon negative in that our operations will be 100% hydro, but we want to take it a step further. So a few weeks ago, we purchased 250,000 carbon offset credits. So not only are we neutral, we are now negative, which I don't think any other miner is even close to, since most of them are just trying to get to neutral. So we're at that point. And then, as I mentioned before, the S and the G, we do focus on things like that. As another aside for our governance side, we had a Series A investment where our Series A investors had common shares. And because we wanted to enhance their protection, we offered them a free transfer over from common shares to preferred shares with no other changes. Otherwise, it'd be exactly the same, just so that they would be senior relative to management and founders on the liquidation table. If something negative were to happen and we had to liquidate, we would make sure the Series A investors would get paid out first prior to management getting paid. So we offered that without any real prompting, just to be better, to have better governance.
Okay, got it. Thank you. So, and then you had the merger with Fear 3D, or which it's happening now. Can you talk a little bit about this, about the ability to trade it on Nasdaq? I think, which is very important.
Yeah, we're super excited about it, and we're happy we're able to execute this in effectively 3 months. Just as an aside, we were basically a company with just an idea and some people in February. And from February till now, we were able to get miners, we were able to get a facility, we were able to get a power contract, and we're able to get a pathway onto the Nasdaq. I am familiar that other companies are trying to do that or have done that recently, but it took them longer. And we're very excited at the fact that we're able to do it ourselves that quickly. So the merger with Fear 3D, we're very excited. It is a synergistic merger because usually when people think of Nasdaq mergers, it's usually a shell. This is anything but. One of the most important parts of Sphere is that Sphere is developing its own GPU-based miners. So they're expected to come out in Q3 of this year, but they'll be able to mine Ether, Polkadot, Cardano, potentially. And we're excited about that because it helps us in two ways. One, it vertically integrates us because we could potentially build our own miners and use them and not have to buy. We could potentially also sell these miners and give us another revenue stream. And that also diversifies us because right now, Gryphon is focused primarily on Bitcoin, but we do and want to expand into the altcoins, so to speak. and we will have the opportunity to do so with our own miners. So we're excited about doing that. To get into more of the details on the merger with Sphere is based on a 5.3 exchange ratio. So effectively, we get 111 million Sphere 3D shares for the 20 some odd million Gryphon shares that are outstanding right now. These are, of course, subject to adjustment if we're any capital raises or anything like that. And we expect to have this closed, let's say 120 to 150 days from our announcement. We do think we could do it faster, but I think it's safe to say 120 to 150. We are moving super fast. We get this question quite often from investors. We're moving as fast as possible, and we're sending things into the Nasdaq and to the SEC as quickly as possible. It really just depends on how fast those sides respond, and if they have any questions that we have to deal with, and we respond to them in kind. But in terms of things that need to be done for that, it's just the standard closing conditions, such as an effective registration statement with the SEC, the Nasdaq approving our continued listing on the Nasdaq, of course, and a shareholder vote on the any side, which we believe we already have in hand. So we don't foresee any issues, but you never know, especially when you deal with regulators. We'll see how that goes.
Yes, okay. So we can expect this for Q3, I think. It says in the presentation. So we're very excited for this. Some or a lot of my followers, they are already invested now in 3D because of this merger, and they're asking me, okay, are there any impacts on our stocks or something like this when this merger happens? Do you know the details here?
Yeah, good question. So it is a reverse merger. So what happens is Sphere 3D continues on as its own company. So the shares don't change for anyone who bought Sphere 3D shares. There's just the share count will just increase because more Sphere 3D shares will be issued to accommodate for the Gryphon shareholders coming in. So there wouldn't be any changes in what the number of shares they hold. Hopefully the share price stays the same or even goes up, but it will effectively just be the same share price multiplied by a larger share count.
Okay, got it. Good. Okay, so let's talk about the Bitcoin operations you're planning there. I mean, you said you will host your miners, I think, in a facility. I think it's in upstate New York, if I done my research correct. So I mean, there's a lot of hydropower. You said it's 100% hydropower. When will this operation start? The Bitcoin mining operation.
Right. So currently, as we have it set up right now, we have an order from Bitmain for their state-of-the-art S19J Pros. The first delivery of those machines, which is 600 of those machines, will occur late August. The facility has told us it will take them only about 2 days at most to have them up and running. So assuming there's enough time at the end of that month to start running, we could be running as soon as late August, based on whenever Bitmain actually gets them to us in the final week or whatever it is. So that's when we first start mining. And we will be growing 600 machines per month for 12 consecutive months to a total of 7,200 machines and 720 petahash at that facility. So that's how we're currently set up. We are currently doing financings. And my primary objective of those financings is to raise capital to take advantage of the situation right now that we see from China. Because China has effectively kicked out all the machines from their borders, we're seeing really cheap machines coming available. And we want to take advantage and buy those and put those into operation immediately. So if things go well, hopefully we'll be able to say that we're operating within a few weeks or within a month or so.
Yeah, that would be great. Okay, what are the plans? Are there any plans for a known facility, to building a known facility or to buy a facility?
Yeah, great question. We already have a letter of intent in place with an emerging power producer. This power producer is building a, frankly, massive 30 gigawatt wind farm in the US. It's a wind farm plus solar. And we've already signed a letter of intent that we're working towards switching over to a definitive agreement whereby we will be co-building a host center, a cryptocurrency hosting center on that premises. The first stage is expected to be 1.25 gigawatts, and that's just the first stage. And we do have the potential to use up to the full 30 gigawatts if we have the demand to do so. These are really big numbers. For example, the 30 gigawatt could house the entire Bitcoin network right now if we were to pull that up. But I'd like to be able to do that, but it's unlikely, I think. But what I can say is that we could feasibly solve the entire issue right now that we're seeing where miners are looking for green energy. If they all went to the facility we're building, everyone's solved because everyone's renewable at that point. So we are trying to solve things. But we are doing that. It's 1.25 gigawatts, as I said. It is expected to be fully operational by 2023. and potentially as early as 2022 to start. But we will be building a large facility in conjunction with that power provider. On top of that, we are looking at other opportunities for buying something or building something that could be put up within 6 months or so. So we are investigating several opportunities. We've been working on this for about a month now and have a database of, at least 40 different opportunities that we could jump on. And potentially we'll try to bridge the gap between right now and the 1.25 gigawatt facility with something in between, maybe in the 50 to 200 megawatt range, somewhere in that range.
Okay, that sounds good. I mean, right now, I think the timing is good to order machines because, we have seen the prices are coming down a little bit because of this China exodus right now. I mean, 3 months ago, the prices for a terahash were at $120 or so at the spot market. I checked it today. It's now at $85 or so. I think you will get a better price because you're ordering a lot more machines. I think it's a good time to look into buying new machines. Very good timing right now, I think. Okay, so you're focusing big on this ESG topic, especially the environmental part is very important for Bitcoin mining right now. I think this is a big advantage to start from the scratch as a green miner. So, what kind of energy sources are you're looking for? You said hydro, wind farm. Are there any other energy sources you are looking into?
Absolutely. We consider green energy to be carbon free. So 100% carbon free energy is what we're looking for. So we will consider hydro, wind, solar, geothermal, nuclear as well, because that is 100% carbon free. Those are the primary ones. But if there are other ones, we would consider it. We're trying to stay away from the greenwashing versions, which is basically buying effectively some type of natural gas and then just buying credits to offset it. We want to avoid that type of opportunity. And we're seeing enough where we think we don't have to go in that direction at all.
Okay. So when we're talking about OPEX, operational costs, I mean, the electricity costs are the biggest part for a crypto miner. In your presentation, I saw the number of 1.3 cents per kilowatt hour, which is, I think the lowest number I've ever seen. I mean, that's incredible. Can you talk a little bit about the electricity costs and what you're sourcing there?
Right. So it is, again, 100% hydro. And 1.3 cents, to be clear, is as low as. The average that the region has historically seen is between 2.4 and 2.6, which we still think is very competitive anyway. But that's generally how it works there. And it is based on the regional operator that has a lot of power. The region originally set the power up for an aluminum smelter that was in the region that has since left. And because of that, it's flush with energy. Hence the reason why the electricity costs are pretty cheap.
Okay, I think that's a very good price, and that helps to be an efficient miner. So
actually, to add, actually, it's also in an opportunity zone in the U.S., which comes with a lot of benefits as well.
Okay, so you're focusing right now mining in the United States. Do you think it's an advantage to mine there, or are there other regions in the world you're looking for mining, or what is the big benefit to be in the U.S.?
Right. Well, for us, it's really just ESG focused. So as long as the location satisfies the general concepts of the ESG, especially the governance side, for example, we're probably not going to be mining in Russia or Iran anytime soon or ever. So for us, it's not necessarily US focused only, but we find a lot of good opportunities in the US. And given the demand in the market in the US, it would make sense for us to have at least an initial footprint. And plus, many of us are based in North America. There's a lot of familiarity there. But that certainly doesn't preclude us from going elsewhere. And we have been looking very aggressively at opportunities, especially in Northern Europe. And we've been seeing some in potentially Australia and maybe the Middle East, maybe. But yeah, it really isn't specifically focused on the US at all.
Okay, thank you. So you're buying these Bitmain S19 J miner, I think, or is it a Pro?
It's the J Pro. S19 J Pro.
Yeah, okay. So let's say the most efficient miner right now in the world. Are you single sourcing with Bitmain, or are you looking to other manufacturers right now?
Great question. And from my experience, I know there are some Bitcoin miners who are single sourcing only for some reason. For me, it doesn't matter. There are a few manufacturers that we certainly trust. Of course, like the WhatsMiner, the Bitmain machines as well, and the Avalon machines are all solid machines, and there are others. For us, it's really a math equation. Whichever turns out to be the best return on investment, we're going to buy those as long as it meets a threshold of us for quality. And we have experts that we use that know and stay on top of each generation of machine. And so we know which ones we'd like to get. And then at that point, it's who can give it to us for cheapest so that we can get a quick payback on those machines. That's how we focus on it. I'm a former analyst, and I look at this as a commodity analyst, not as someone that's in love with Bitcoin, even though I am a big supporter of the Bitcoin network, I look at this as a commodity, and it needs to be run that way, in that it's not always going to be massive margin times where we just keep on going up. We're going to see down periods, and we need to manage for the down periods more importantly than we're managing for the up periods. Based on my experience when I was at Riot and with Hive, there are situations where you're effectively trying to cover 10 pots with 3 lids, and that's not fun. So making sure that you have downside protection at all times is really important for us.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Okay, so can you elaborate a little bit about these carbon offset credits you bought? I think that was a new thing in this industry. I think that was also the time when the stock took off. Yeah, what's this? What's the strategy behind this, and do you want to buy more in the future?
Yeah, absolutely. We do have some good contacts where we're able to get these carbon offsets for pretty cheap. So we were able to take advantage of that. We have found out, I think last week, the Winklevosses did some purchase for carbon credits as well, but at much higher prices than what we did. So we're pretty excited about what we've been able to accomplish so far. And what we're doing with these is we're buying them because of 2 reasons. One is we want to be good corporate citizens and really embody ESG. It's, again, not something that we just say, which is what I think some may be doing because everyone's talking about it right now. We're actually doing it because most people would just stop at being neutral, right? Which is where we're at already. We've taken the additional step to become negative to really show that we believe in this. And the other part too, is that it's opportunity. We were able to accumulate these at a very low price. And so we took advantage, and we can now use these to offset other things, such as the delivery of machines, the carbon that occurs with that. When I travel to New York to meet with investors, I can offset those with these credits. And we're pretty happy that we're able to do that. Are we going to buy more if the opportunity presents itself? Absolutely. I believe that there are more that we can buy at about the same pricing as well. So if it makes sense, would potentially purchase more.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you. So what is the difference between Gryphon Digital Mining and the competitors? Why should my followers invest in Gryphon Digital Mining?
Yeah, well, I started off with probably a very long-winded answer of what we're different about. Well, and I'll highlight that again. The first thing is that our team, I believe, is second to none. When you can, and I challenge our investors, your viewers rather, to look at our management and our board and compare it to the management and board of any other Bitcoin miner. And I would say that ours is probably stronger, top to bottom. And it's a mix of experience. It's a mix of blue chip experience. You're not going to see someone who is there just because they're rich, right? That's not how we operate. We are operating a company that looks good on paper and is able to execute extra things for the company. So that's how we're built. And the other part too is we are ESG committed. We were ESG before Elon Musk made it fashionable. We did it partially to future-proof the company as well, but we didn't expect it to occur that quickly for ESG to be such an important aspect. And as I've mentioned in the beginning of this conversation, not only are we fully on the E side being carbon negative, but we've done things on the S and G side with what's Brittany done in her past and how we treat our shareholders. We do definitely embody this. So we're not saying it just because everyone's talking about it, or that we happen to be green because we just happen to have hydropower because we were there to start, which is what some have done. For us, that's how we operate. And so when ESG no longer becomes a topic, we'll still keep doing it. Whereas the others they haven't committed to it, so they might go somewhere else. Right?
Okay, thank you. I mean, the company name is Gryphon Digital Mining. Do you want to be only a miner, or are there other things you're thinking about? For example, staking when you mine Ethereum, for example, or Ether. Are you want to diversify a little bit into the crypto space?
Absolutely, and thank you for the question. I think you're the first person to ask that type of question. The answer is yes. We are focused on Bitcoin right now because I have gone through the regulatory process when I was with Riot, and I realized how difficult it is when you put more on the table than you need to. So right now what we're doing is we're focusing on Bitcoin so that the regulators we'll have something simple and something they've approved before to go through. After we're up and running and we're fully listed on the Nasdaq and everything's great, we will then move into diversifying. Staking is definitely on the table. We may even go into NFTs because we've had people reach out to us about that. But it's really going to be the other coins, staking, and then look at other opportunities as they show up. But we're definitely not just going to be a Bitcoin miner alone.
Okay, thank you. So I think we talked a lot about Gryphon Digital Mining. In my opinion, a very interesting company. I think it's going to be a great journey to follow, and I think we will do a lot of interviews. Maybe let's talk a little bit about the general Bitcoin and mining space. I mean, we had a lot of FUD in the last few months about Bitcoin mining, about energy. How do you see the future, especially in North America, for Bitcoin mining?
Yeah, I think there is definitely a big push towards renewable mining, or at least 100% carbon-free mining. That has definitely become a major topic, and we're seeing more competition, so to speak, for the facilities that we're looking for, because that's something that everyone's looking to do. So I think it's going to be one of two things. We're going to see a general migration towards green energy use in general. On top of that, there may be a possibility that we're going to start seeing a bifurcation of the value of a Bitcoin. If I've heard some talk about if we can somehow tag and trace and easily tag a Bitcoin that's been mined from a new renewable way, it might be able to command a premium relative to a normal Bitcoin. I don't know if we're ever going to see that take off, but I've heard talk about that. And if there's enough talk about it, it could actually end up being in existence. So we'll see if that's the case. So that's one of the key things. What the other interesting aspect is, because of what's happened in China, there is a flipping on its head of the dynamic. If you had a conversation with me about 2 months ago, the main pain point for anyone trying to build a Bitcoin miner is we can't find enough machines. It's costing $120 a terahash to buy one. It's been flipped upside down because there are so many machines now available from China. The issue now is we need to find power, because the Chinese are coming and taking up everything they possibly can that's of a decent size and a decent price, because they need to find new homes for their miners. So it's a very different dynamic now, and now machines are not an issue. I can buy machines. You said you could find machines at 70. I've had people offer to me in the 50s per terahash. So it's a very different dynamic now. So it's interesting, and anyone who's mining right now is going to do great because of the reduced global hash rate. We just redid our math on our break-even cost, and it's now just over $2,000 a Bitcoin. It was originally $6,000 a Bitcoin at the peak. So Bitcoin has to drop a lot for us to lose money in the current scenario. We're super excited about that. And we're looking forward to mining as soon as possible.
Yeah, I think no one expected that drop below 100 exahash. I mean, in my calculations, at the end of the year, I was planning with something like 300 exahash for the network hash rate. That was my calculation. And now we're below 100. I think the machines will come online again, but I think it will take a few weeks or months. So do you have a calculation or a number for hash rate for the upcoming month, or what are you planning there?
Yeah, I find it very difficult to estimate the exact hash rate, so I don't even bother doing that. But what I would offer is these few thoughts. We are very deep in looking at facilities in terms of buying them, hosting, or even building them. I don't see anything coming online faster than 4 months, and that's a super fast timeline, really. But people usually raise eyebrows when you say 4 months. So unless it's already built, we're looking at minimum 6 months before we're going to start seeing sizable deployments that would fit the needs of the Chinese, other than the ones that they've already purchased. So in my opinion, I think we're going to see a low hash rate, at least not a return to the higher hash rates for at least half a year. So it might be the end of this year to next year that we're going to see a meaningful bump up. And even then, it will still be fast execution to do all of that. So conservatively, I'm thinking it might even last a year before we see a decent return of those machines that were turned offline in China. And the other thing I'd add, and people talk about this all the time, so it isn't new, is the machines in China, many of them were the inefficient machines that were running because their electricity costs were pretty much almost free, right? We're not going to see an S9 coming from China and being plugged in North America anywhere, because there's just no need to plug a machine like that in. So even though we topped out at, let's call it 180 some odd exahash, I don't think we're going to see that number come back outside of new machines replacing it anytime soon, because I think a lot of the older machines that were being run in China won't make it over the border. Or they'll just break because they weren't. You've seen pictures of how they deploy some of these things. Some of them were very professionally set up. Others seemed like they were just piles of machines that were stacked on top of each other running. So I don't think the care on some of these machines are as great, and those probably will survive or work after they come over the border anyway.
Okay. When we're talking about mining in China, I mean, I heard that some miners want to stay there and wait. I'm not sure what they're waiting for. Do you think that mining is coming back somewhere in the future in China?
Great question. Like everyone jokes about how China bans Bitcoin every year or every 2 years, right? So maybe they're
Yes.
holding out for that, or maybe they know something that the rest of us don't. Like the other guys got scared away, but they know something and they're just going to turn it back on, and great for them. I don't know the answer. What I can say is this is the first time we've seen a mass exodus like this. So it seems more real than not.
Yes.
So it could be a combination of one, they either know something, two, they're lazy, or three, they just they have nowhere to go, and it might be three. It's funny. I was talking to a host provider, and they told me that they're getting machines sent to them without them asking or even knowing that they're coming, because the Chinese miner is hoping that they'll take them. And that's how ugly it is right now. And finding near term, immediate hashing power is that they're willing to just send them anywhere and just hope the person that's taking them will turn them on for them, with no guarantee. So they could just be sitting in the parking lot somewhere
Yeah, man.
because there's no home for them.
Okay. Yeah, the times are changing very fast in Bitcoin.
Yeah,
That's really insane. From 3 months ago, a completely different situation to now.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think also the price is very interesting. But I will not ask you for a prediction because no one, well, no one knows where Bitcoin price is going. I mean, everyone likes to speculate on it, but yeah, I think it makes no sense. I think in the long term, it's only going up. In the short term,
Yeah.
yeah, you never know.
Yeah.
Okay, Rob, do you want to add anything here? Because
Uh, yeah. Well, thanks a lot for your time. I really appreciate it. I've watched your show for quite a bit, so it's exciting to be on, and hopefully I didn't screw this up too much. But yeah, we're very excited, and we think we're severely undervalued because we're private. We're not really out in front as much. And when I say undervalued, the relative value is of how Sphere 3D is trading. To give the readers the viewers rather, a sense of how we see it, if you use precedent transactions and public market comps, the 720 petahash that we have coming on, if you use public market comps such as Riot, Marathon, Hive, Hut 8, Bitfarms, the value of that is probably in the 250 to 300 million range, somewhere in there, depending on where Bitcoin is trading at and where they're trading at. And then the power opportunity, which people don't give any value to, which is shocking. Our stage one is 1.25 gigawatts. It could potentially be 30 gigawatts. But let's just use the 1.25 gigawatts. If you use Riot's recent transaction when they bought Windstone, they paid 650 million for a 700 megawatt facility. Using that type of valuation, that implies that our 1.25 gigawatt facility is 1.2 billion, right? It's a JV, it's a joint venture. So assuming we're 50-50 because we haven't hashed it out, but that kind of makes sense. That means that value alone is 600 million. So the 300, let's say, of my machines and the 600 means that we're just short of a billion right off the bat, right? And he's not trading anywhere near that type of valuation. I'm not saying any itself is worth a billion, the combined company is, but when you do the math, it's not even remotely close. And that's just the public market comps. And we think that once we start trading on the Nasdaq and people see us more, they'll start realizing what's actually there. And there's a lot there. And we're building even more. We're the company that was able to go from zero to Nasdaq listing, machines, and a facility in 3 months. Give us a few more months and let's see what we can do from there.
yeah, very exciting story. We are
Mm-hmm.
very exciting to hear from you again soon. I think a lot of developments there, and yeah, it was great to talk to you. Thank you very
Likewise.
much for joining first interview. Yeah, I think I'm starting now this interview series. It's also very new for me, but I think it's a lot of fun and good for my followers to get to see the face of the company there. Makes a lot of sense to me. So thank you very much for joining. Yeah, and I will stop recording now, and we can chat a little bit.
Sure.
Okay.